Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I want to give you a tip for getting through your first draft. And this could apply to anything, right? So whether you're writing a song, whether it's a novel that you're working on, an edit of your movie, right? Anything of that nature, anything artistic, right? And this borrows a theme from Steven Pressfield, right? So Steven Pressfield, who wrote The War of Art, he has this term called resistance. And resistance is anything that is in opposition of our creative act, right? It's pulling us away from that. And there are, quite many forces of resistance in the world. Some self-inflicted, some otherwise. But, one of the biggest ones can actually be this idea of perfection on a first draft. And so let's take something as writing, right? So when you're writing, you're putting in the words into the document, and then you come to it and you're like, you don't have the right word that you want. And then all of a sudden the mind fixates. What word do you use? And, so you put in a word initially, and then your mind's like, well, that's not the perfect word. That's not a great sentence, grammatically, structurally, and so forth, right? Well, all of a sudden, boom, now you're fixated on this, and you're going to be spending time rewriting that thing, as opposed to understanding this is a first draft. So while you might not get it perfect the first time, that's okay, because you're going to get the chance to revise it. And then you'll start to finesse and figure out the word that is more fitting. But to get fixated there is just a complete derailment of what your actual goal should be, which is to get through that first draft, right? In editing, right, whether audio or video, we call this, pardon the term, but frame fucking, right? A lot of time, like, people fixate of like, okay, hey, I think we can tighten that up. And it's like, for me, when I edit something on the first pass, I'm just looking for, how does it all connect? How does it flow overall? Because I know I can, once I have that, then I can go into frame fucking, right? And it's not that, like, here's why it doesn't behoove you to, fixate on these details. Because you will put in that extra time, and in the moment, you think it's important, but, with the benefit of hindsight, that might be such a detail that gets eliminated or changed completely, or it just becomes so much easier in terms of answering that once you have a larger view of everything, right? So I know once I make a first pass, let's say, of a movie, then I can look at a particular edit or even a scene and know of, okay, should I speed up the pacing? Should I slow it down, right? When writing, for example, right now I'm working on an outline, and, the more I finesse the kind of backstory of every character and stuff like that, now the more it presents itself of, what their actions would be, whereas before they were placeholders, right? So it's, art really is all about revision and revision and revision at the end of the day. And that applies to even like things like drawing. Just because you make one drawing doesn't mean it has to be the final thing. Like, you can pick up another piece of paper and draw again until you get it to a point that you want, right? That feels finished for you, that scratches that creative itch of that portion of the work, right? So that is my advice to you, is to not fixate on the minute details of those things, and just to progress until you get to that finished draft, and then continue revising and revising, because you can do that, right? And just put in placeholders as you need to, and then fill them in as you go. That will serve you much, much better. It certainly has served me much better. And you know what? From the artists that I study, whether Steven Pressfield, This is something that him and writer Ryan Holiday talked about on The Daily Stoic. It serves him well. Tim Ferriss often talks about this, and just a plethora of other amazing people that I look up to. But whoever you look up to, I'm sure they have their own sort of version of this as well. So may it serve you well. Thank you so much for taking time to tune in. I appreciate you. I hope to see you next time.